What if I told you the most important shift in crypto history isn't happening on your price chart? It's not happening on X, it's not happening in a Telegram group. It's happening behind closed doors in the boardrooms of institutions that once called crypto a joke. And by the time most people figure that out, the window will already be closing. My name is Host, and today we're pulling back the curtain on something that most channels won't dare to connect for you. Because when you line up the legislation, the partnerships, the banking moves, and the ecosystem upgrades happening right now in the XRP world, what you're looking at isn't a rally. It's a realignment. Stay with me. This one goes deep. Here's something most people don't understand about the crypto market. Price doesn't lead, policy leads. Think about it like building a highway. Before a single car drives on it, there are years of zoning approvals, environmental reviews, budget negotiations, and committee markups. Nobody talks about the highway when it's still a stack of paperwork on a senator's desk. But the people who own the land along the planned route? They already know what's coming. Right now, the United States government is writing the rulebook for digital assets, and for the first time in years, both sides of the aisle are showing up to the table. Legislators are openly discussing a markup timeline that would push comprehensive market structure clarity to a Senate floor vote within months. Not years. Months. And here's the part that almost nobody is talking about. The framework being built isn't just about classifying tokens. It's about defining the pipes, the payment infrastructure, the settlement trails, the cross-border transaction standards, and Ripple has spent over a decade quietly building exactly those pipes. When the highway finally opens, who benefits? The people who already own the land. Let me give you a number that will reframe everything you think you know about altcoins. Go open any chart tool right now. Pull up any altcoin you love, ETH, Sol, AVAX, whatever. Now change the quote currency. Don't measure it in dollars. Measure it in Bitcoin. What you'll see almost universally is a chart that looks like a slow bleed, a long decline every pump in dollar terms when measured against Bitcoin. Reveals itself as a losing position over the long run. Now pull up XRP or BTC. XRP is one of the only assets in crypto history we're talking out of thousands of projects to have set a higher all-time high in Bitcoin terms in a second cycle than it did in its first. That's not a lucky coincidence. That's a signal about what the market, beneath all the noise, actually believes about the long-term value proposition of this network. Doge did it once on the back of a tweet from the richest man in the world. That's a one-time event, a lightning strike. XRP did it through adoption, litigation, and infrastructure. That's a pattern. The difference between gambling and investing is whether you understand why the price moved. And when you understand why XRP performed the way it did in Bitcoin terms, the next question becomes obvious. What happens when the regulatory overhang disappears completely? Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a massive ocean liner, one of those old, slow-moving ships that takes 3 miles just to start turning. Now imagine that ship's captain suddenly says, full speed ahead. Every department has 100 days to figure out how we navigate these new waters. That's what's happening inside some of the largest financial institutions in America right now. We're not talking about curiosity. We're not talking about pilot programs buried in innovation labs nobody cares about. We're talking about senior management mandates. Entire divisions being reorganized around crypto integration timelines. Banks that spent the last decade dismissing this space are now in emergency mode, not because they believe in the technology out of passion, but because they believe in it out of fear of being left behind. And think about what that means for a network like XRP, which was literally designed for institutional grade, high volume, real-time settlement. This isn't the technology finding the use case. The use case has been waiting for the technology to be legally cleared to operate. The SEC's evolving stance on what constitutes a security isn't just good news for Ripple's legal team. It's the green light that every compliance officer at every major bank has been waiting for before they sign off on integration. Payroll infrastructure, enterprise settlement, cross-border payment trails. These aren't hypotheticals anymore. The contracts are being signed, the NDAs are expiring, the partnerships are going public. The quiet storm is getting loud. Here's where it gets really interesting for anyone paying attention to the tech side. For years, DeFi criticism was fair. It was clunky, risky, mostly speculative, and dominated by borrow-lend loops that created yield out of thin air and risk out of thin air simultaneously. It wasn't a financial revolution. It was a casino in a trench coat pretending to be a bank, but something's changed. The next generation of DeFi isn't about yield farming meme coins. It's about building real financial instruments tools that replicate the protective and generative functions of traditional finance, but without the gatekeepers. Think about insurance. In the old world, insurance is a transfer of risk from you to a large institution, and that institution extracts enormous value in the process. The new model flips it. Participants in a network can collectively backstop risk, earn yield for doing so, and protect the very protocols they use daily. That's not a small idea. That's potentially transformational for how billions of people interact with financial risk. And the XRP ecosystem, through its expanding DeFi layer, is positioning itself at the intersection of institutional adoption and this new wave of decentralized financial innovation. That's a rare combination. Most networks lean one way or the other. The ones that can bridge both worlds are the ones worth watching. Let's take a second to talk about something real. The crypto space has a political problem. Not left vs right, I'm talking about insider vs outsider. When regulatory bodies from advisory committees, the people invited to the table shape the rules being written. And if you've built something that challenges the existing power structure, something that makes international payments faster, cheaper, and less dependent on legacy correspondent banking, don't be surprised if your seat at that table stays mysteriously empty. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's just how power works. The good news? Policy wins aren't decided only in advisory rooms. They're decided by votes. And when legislators have to justify their positions to constituents, people who send money to family overseas, small business owners who eat 3% in wire fees, single parents stretching every dollar, the conversation changes. The argument for faster, cheaper, more transparent payments isn't ideological. It's practical, and practical arguments eventually win. That's why the legislative momentum right now matters so much. Every vote that moves this legislation forward isn't just a procedural step, it's a signal that the outsiders are becoming insiders. That the rules are finally going to reflect reality, not protect incumbents. I want to be honest with you, nobody including me knows exactly when or exactly how high. Anyone who gives you a specific number with total confidence is selling you certainty they don't own. But here's what I can tell you. The convergence happening right now is unlike anything this space has seen. You have regulatory clarity approaching from one direction, institutional adoption accelerating from another, ecosystem infrastructure maturing from a third. And a global debt environment with the U.S. national debt now surpassing the size of its own GDP for the first time since World War II, that is making every thinking person on the planet quietly wonder whether the old financial system has the answers. It doesn't. But new systems don't replace old ones overnight, they replace them the way dawn replaces night, gradually, then all at once. The question isn't whether this transformation is happening. The question is whether you'll have been positioned before the sun came up. If this video made you think differently about something, whether it's how you measure a coin's performance, how you think about regulatory timelines, or just how you understand the bigger picture, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Not because of hype, not because of price pumps, but because the people in your life deserve to understand what's actually being built. Drop a comment below. What part of the XRP ecosystem are you most watching in the next 90 days? I read every single one, and as always, do your own research, think independently, and stay patient. The biggest moves in this space have never gone to the loudest voices. They've gone to the most prepared ones. See you in the next one.